No comment. So I'm here to attend.
Yeah, there's
Okay. I'll tell you, we've been here almost 30 years. I've never been in this building for anything. I thought it was
Can you imagine?
nice old building.
well, you know, our parent company changed. Yep. Wasn't sure.
Why had so much more color. Yeah, my youngest
Good to see everyone here. Welcome to the February 7th, 2023 Ogden City Council meeting. Please let the record reflect that all council members are present. We'll open this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'll ask Vice Chair Ritchie to do.
Thank you. Would please stand and join me and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, we have a really wonderful evening ahead of us with some acknowledgments in the community. We're very excited to welcome several of our partner organizations from the community. Ogden School District, we have Jer Bates. From the Weber Morgan Health Department, we have our Health Officer and Executive Director, Brian Cowan. And we have Weber State University Student Sustainability Coordinator, Corinne Martinez. And we're so excited to talk with you all about Idle Free Month. Yeah, please step forward to the mic. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, council members, for inviting me to speak this evening. My name is Corinne Martinez, and I am a Student Sustainability Coordinator at Weber State University. WSU is proud to partner with Ogden City, Weber Morgan Health Department, and the Ogden School District to celebrate Idle Free Month this February. At WSU, we are strongly committed to significantly cutting our emissions and improving air quality along the Wasatch Front. Since 2007, WSU has cut its electricity consumption by 35%, natural gas consumption by 43%, and total greenhouse gas emissions by 42%. With a goal to source 100% from renewable sources by the year 2040. This month, WSU will be hosting an internal Clear the Air challenge where colleges and divisions will compete against each other to cut their emissions by utilizing alternative transportation, carpooling, and trip chaining. This year, we are excited to see the first leg of the OGX line open up. The students and I really love the quiet, emissions-free, all-electric buses. WSU also just finished updating its transportation master plan, which will work to improve micromobility on campus. We are excited to see how these additions improve the use of alternative transit. Thank you again for letting me share our progress with you. Have a great one.
Awesome, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brian Cowan. I'm the Executive Director of the Weber Morgan Health Department, and I'm just here to express my appreciation for the Ogden City Council and the city as taking a leadership role in setting the example, really with identifying the Idle Free Month and helping educate our community on steps that they can take to in their day-to-day behaviors that will help improve our air quality and put fewer contaminants out into our airshed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, council members. Similar to Weber State University, the Ogden School District has made a concerted effort over the past several years to reduce energy consumption, to employ photovoltaic, or in other words, solar panels in the construction of our new schools to help reduce our carbon footprint. We will continually remind our students about being good stewards of our environment, but particularly in this month, and especially with the emphasis on being idle free. But what you as council members have the opportunity to do this month, and what some of you have already prepared and scheduled with us to be at our schools and visit with our students, I want to emphasize the impact that that has. You are all familiar with the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Once we become adults, it's very hard to get us to change our behaviors. So the opportunity that we have for you to connect with our students in our elementary schools really is powerful, because I can tell a parent until I'm blue in the face, please don't idle your car while you're here in our parking lot. I had an experience just today. Past a parent walking into one of our elementary schools, had parked right in front of the front doors in a no parking zone. I said, parent, would you mind please going back to your vehicle and moving back to one of our parking spots rather than parking here in a no parking zone? The parent chose not to do that, but instead go back. I said, we can't have you leave your car here unattended. So instead of moving the car, the parent chose to get back in the car, turn it back on, and sit there with it idling. Those are the types of behaviors that it's really hard to counter against. But with you meeting with our students, it's such a special and exciting experience for them, because you're someone important to them. You're a leader in our community. And just that simple process of being at our schools, handing out a little sticker that says, be idle free, that helps ingrain a different behavior in those minds. And I can tell mom or dad, hey, please turn off your ignition. Falls on deaf ears. But when Johnny or Susie says that from the back seat, all of a sudden, now that makes an impact. And that's the impact that you as council members have. And so thank you in advance to those of you who have been able to arrange that in your schedules. For any of you who want to take another look with Mr. Garside at additional opportunities that we have throughout this month to join our students at our schools, we appreciate that effort, because you really do help lead the way in changing behaviors in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Do we do a picture? You guys want to do a picture? No? Okay. Do you want a picture? Yes. Okay.
Can we have you
let's
come
do
up
it.
for a picture?
Come on up. Sure, why not? I mean, we're all here. We might as well. We'll have to go over. We're all here.
If I don't have one, then I'm just terrible.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, and I appreciate having the opportunity to come to the schools and see the students. It helps fire us up to keep going, right? Thank you all. Great. Up next, we have recognition for Black History Month, which began on February 1st. And we have, there she is, Chair Sharday Jones from the Diversity Commission here to help present. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Black History Month.
Yes.
So, we'd like to start off by presenting 3 awesome individuals in the Ogden community, a couple of Black-owned businesses, and some leadership here that we'd like to recognize for Black History Month. So we'll get started by recognizing Adrienne Andrews. She's at the back of the room here. Adrienne Andrews, she's the Assistant Vice President of Diversity, Chief Diversity Officer for Weber State University. Adrienne Andrews is a native of Utah. Miss Andrews was raised in the Davis County area and has a long history of advocacy and social justice and inclusion work with a special capacity for community building. Adrienne currently serves as a member of the McCady and Layton Hospital Governing Board and Boys and Girls Club of Weber Davis, honorary base commander of the 75th Air Base Wing at Hill Air Force Base, 2nd District Judicial Nominating Commission, Davis County Conviction Integrity Unit, and as a trustee with her Larry H. Miller Charitable Trust. That's a mouthful. So yeah, she does a lot.
She has a few things
Yeah,
going
she has
on.
a couple things going
That
on.
is a mouthful. I totally agree. Take a breath.
I was like, where does it end? Just kidding, we don't want it to end. That's awesome. Let's see. Where did I stop? Okay, so Miss Andrews was a founding member of the Ogden City Diversity Commission and was a co-architect of the charter for creating an Ogden diversity strategy in 2016. And currently, Miss Andrews works as a vice president for the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and chief diversity officer at Weber State University. So see, it didn't end. There's less. So let's give a round of applause for Adrian Andrews and all for contributions to Ogden City. Thank you for all of your service. Next up, we have James Edwards. I think he's also here in the audience. Thank you for joining us. So he is the owner of James Gourmet. Mr. Edwards was born in Wilmington, Delaware. As a child, he loved to bake while other kids were playing outside. He was in the kitchen with his grandmother, learning her secrets to baking. Mr. Edwards sold his first sweet potato pie while serving in the Air Force. This year, he was humbled when Marcus Lemonis, the host of CNBC's The Prophet, decided to work with James Gourmet, and they now sell their gourmet pies and products all over the country. So thank you for being here in Ogden and providing us with delicious pies. So we encourage all of you guys to go try one of his pies if you haven't.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay, awesome. So you have some long-term members
You
here.
didn't bring any pies tonight?
No samples?
Yeah. He'll know for next time. Okay, and next we have Debbie Glanton. She is the owner of Love's Cakes here in Ogden. So Miss Glanton was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Miss Glanton opened her Love's Cakes in 2009 by selling cakes and desserts out of her home kitchen. Word spread fast of her delicious cakes and treats, and Miss Glanton quickly found great success. Love's Cakes was voted the 2020-2022 Best of Utah Cake Decorator, Best Cupcakes, and Customer Service. Thank you for your delicious cakes. We haven't gotten one, but if you guys need some cakes, she's your lady. So we do have some certificates to present to you all, and we usually come up and
Yeah, if you'd like to
take
say
a
anything.
picture.
Yeah, take a picture
We
if you'd
can
like to say
definitely do
anything.
that.
Yeah, come on up. And bring any of your family or people that are with you if you'd like. Welcome. That's so exciting. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
James, this is for you.
Come down this way.
Come down that way just a little bit.
I got my.
It is delicious. Yeah.
One, two, three. So much.
Awesome. Would you like to say anything, James? On the mic? Would you like to say anything? Yeah, please feel free. If you'd like to say anything.
Louis, how you doing, sir? Hey. Good.
About
First
food,
of all,
we know each other. Food.
thank you all for having me. This is the first city council meeting that I've been to. I would like to come to more, find out what's going on in our backyard. I was sent here by the military in 2009, end of 2009, and I was like, what is Ogden, Utah? You know, especially coming from the East Coast. But I've been out here ever since, you know, and I have no plans of leaving anytime soon. This has become my home. I've had my, my kids here, and we plan on going to Weber State University and keep it going, right? The number one thing that has it's been hard for me, right? Here in Ogden, and we've talked about this. I've always had to leave the county for a kitchen. If there's any way, any help that I can get, I'm going to build one, whether I got to keep going and bugging Marcus or, expanding the business, whatever. I'm going to build one here in Ogden. But if there's any funds at any time, any kind of extra money that could help me get this kitchen going for our community, I don't want a James Gourmet Bakery. I want an Ogden shared kitchen, and I've always had to drive about an hour or more to get to a kitchen. Now that shows my dedication to the company and to the customers. But that's the only thing I have to say. If there's any way we can ever get a kitchen, I've been working on it for years. I've been working on it as well.
We've
So
talked about this.
if there's any help, that would be great. So again, thank you so much. And this is going on my wall. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. I see the pictures of your sweets all the time, and it's dangerous.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I love these cakes. We have been in South Ogden now for almost 7 years. We do lots of weddings, catering, birthdays, showers, you name it. It's just been wonderful doing what I do. I would love to expand. That's my next, that's my plan, is to expand. I can't thank Ogden, South Ogden, all of Utah, because we get customers from Salt Lake, everywhere now. And I just can't thank everyone for all their support. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
First of all, I am so honored to be here tonight, and I am grateful to be standing amongst friends and community members and coworkers and colleagues and people who make it incredibly hard to want to live, work, or play anywhere outside of this community. Thank you for understanding that sometimes when you have a 4.5-year-old, they decide that they're hungry right after you tried to give them something to eat and they didn't want it. But that's not Black History Month. What I wanted to say to this council and to our mayor and our community members here today is that the great thing about Ogden is its willingness to persist, its willingness to try again, its willingness to get it right, and its willingness to make a place for people who otherwise may not have had a place. My grandfather, James Gillespie Sr., moved here in the early 1940s and worked at Ogden Defense Depot. He was military police, and he was from Mississippi. And when his service was up, he decided to stay here. And his family, which was very large back in Starksville, said, "What do you mean you're staying in Utah?" And he said, "This place is special. If not me, who? If not now, when?" And because of that commitment, he got to connect with community leaders like Marshall White. He worked with Massey, H.C. Massey. He worked with so many amazing people in this community, in addition to being married to Betty Gillespie, who helped move equal rights and civil rights here in Ogden as well as at Hill Air Force Base, really changing the face of what diversity, equity, and equality look like, not only in our community, not only in our state, but in the nation and how our military operates. And I get to be a part of that legacy. And I get to work at Weber State University, and I get to work with the city and commissioners and individuals and people across the communities because everybody comes to Ogden. And we get to do amazing things together. And as we celebrate Black History Month, I want people to understand something really important to me. I'm going to lift up.
Yes. Do what you need to do.
This is my cute little boy. Say hi, Gernot.
Hi.
He's 4.5, and he's going to go to school. And when he goes to school, I'm excited to know that he will be able to learn about Black history, because Black history is American history. It's not only
I'm
the...
not learning down there.
You're not.
You're learning about that.
You're learning about that. But not only is it my history, it's our history. It's our community's history, it's our heritage, and it's our opportunity to learn where we've been, where we are, and where we have yet to go together. And so I'm always honored to know that I have a father who grew up in this community, that my grandfather stayed in this community, that my father was law enforcement, James H. Gillespie Jr., in this community. And he did that work because this place is special. And this is a place that was willing to make space for him, and it's making space for me and my family and my hungry little boy. and it's making space for all of you. And together is what makes this community great. So I am honored and delighted to be recognized by Ogden City and our Diversity Commission and all of you. And please know that from our previous speakers, people come from outside of Utah to get here, but once we get here, we stay. Because we become a part of this fabric and we want to be a part of this community. So thank you all and have a wonderful evening. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Love that. And thanks so much to the Diversity Commission. I love this, honoring
Chair.
different community members. Oh, yes, please.
Before some of our guests leave,
Yeah, please.
since I think it's important, and I was hoping Mr. Brian would also hear this out, but anyway, we'll have to catch up with him later. Just really quickly, I wanted to say congratulations for these recognitions. Ma'am, sir, I haven't had the pleasure to meet you personally, but congratulations and thank you for being here. Adrian, everybody loves you, as you know that. And James, I wanted to say something. We've been wanting to have this kitchen here for a long time, like you said. And there are some people that have spent time working on exploring possibilities. But like many other projects, sometimes some projects rise to the top priority lists and others don't. Because I think it's easy to do this if the right people wanted to do it. And I just don't think the right people have wanted to do or have had the really, really strong desire to do it. My family owns 2 food establishments, restaurants here in the city, okay? And when I moved here from Mexico, that was one of the first things my family did too. We bought a Mexican restaurant. And sometimes when I talk about my experience in this community as a leader and as a community advocate, I always talk about food. Always. Like, there cannot be a conversation in anything that I do without being about food, right? And so it's just part of who we are. It's part of our soul. It's what brings people together. It's just all these really cool things, right? And that's why some of us are so passionate about it. So I wanted to make a promise to you, right, which is I'm going to reconnect with you, and I'm going to fight with you for this kitchen that our community needs, because there are a lot of people that need it. So I promise you here that I don't know that I can make it happen, but I promise you that I will reconnect with you, and I'm going to fight very hard for this, and let's see what we can do, okay? Thank you. Okay.
Agreed. Yeah, we've been talking about that for like 5 years, right? More. And you probably much longer than that. Yeah.
Long time.
For sure. Any other comments?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Mayor, did you want to make a comment? I feel like, no. You don't have, it looked like maybe. Okay.
I thought
Okay.
Louise was going to
Sorry.
ask for James's sweet potato pie recipe.
Oh, I don't think he's giving away the recipe. No, that's too good. Yeah, thank you all so much. Great, and now we're very lucky to hear from Jay Hudson, who's going to talk to us about his book, The Weber County Trail Pioneer. No worries, and I've heard a rumor that we all have a copy of your book.
Yeah, you know, one big problem I've had.
Come on up to the mic, okay, right there, so everybody online can also hear you.
One big problem that I've had with the trail system is that I could never get out in front of Jay Lauber.
Oh.
He evidently passed the books out to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you up front, that trail system wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for Mr. Lauder. And I'm going to clap for him.
Okay, well, we'll clap for Jay.
You know, we could put him on a horse out in the front, but I don't think he'd ride a horse. So. I'd like to pass out to you a paper, a white paper. It's broken into parts. The first part is the book, and in there is the story of the trail system, how it got started in 1985. The second one is, I call out the good guys and the bad guys. This project was big, and there was a lot of resistance along the line. I list over 100 organizations that became partners in what we were doing. And I don't know, you could do that again, 100 partners. Thousands of volunteers. The book is dedicated to the volunteers. And there's got to be, well, I work with over 3,000 of them. The book is at the University Special Collections Library, and it's been shared with the Weber County Visitors Bureau, and the Ogden Trails Network helped pay for it. And the Chamber of Commerce has got a copy in Riverdale City, and the Heritage Foundation. And a lot of them went out to friends who actually were up there turning dirt. The next part, I'm not going to go into details because you'll read it, but I consider there are two things that you folks really need to work on. One is the Union Station. And when I was working for Mayor Meekum, I never saw an elected official come into our office, his office, and ask, I'm going to go down to Salt Lake City, and what do you want me to tell them down there about the Union Station? Never happened. And I have a feeling that's still happening. The other one is the 21st Street Pond, which is on page 2. And there, what happened was that it was considered an amenity, like the Union Station. Mayor Godfrey gave it away. And there is a document that he signed, and if the legal department's here, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but he went outside the legal department and hired a lawyer and signed it. They two of them signed a document, and we don't have the 21st Street Pond anymore. And I've listed a series of the things we could do with the 21st Street Pond if we had it back. So I'm counting on you folks. Mayor gave it away, America can get it back. And then the other thing is, on page 3, is just the fun part. It's a whole series of ideas that could be incorporated in the city, things we never got around to, things we didn't have a chance to get around to. And I tried to put down some of the things I could remember that are gains and losses in the city. And by the time that I'd finished a partial list, I thought, wow, that's a history right there of all the gains and losses over the years. So that's the story of the book, and some other things that I noticed out there in front that everybody's got their picture on the wall, and that's only half the story, because I don't have my picture on the wall. And here is my picture as seen by Norman Rockwell. Anybody here old enough to remember him? Mm-hmm. This is the story of the freedom of speech. I'd like to see you folks find a place for it. Because it's because of the freedom of speech that I'm here today. And I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Chair?
Yes, please.
May I please? I apologize
Yes.
for
No,
asking for a
please.
little extra time. I just had another follow up to my previous comment on this kitchen. I just learned. I mean, I actually just remembered recently. It came to my mind that there's a full restaurant at the Union Station, and I just wanted to double check and make sure that that's something that the city owns, which I'm assuming it is. Is that correct? Whoever is willing to answer that question. The city owns that restaurant inside the Union Station?
We do not own the restaurant. We
don't.
own the Union Station, and we lease the restaurant space to a private restaurant.
We lease the restaurant space.
They rent from us for their restaurant.
Okay. Well, that's something that I'd like to, down the road, talk a little bit about. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, great. Well, now we are on to common consent. We have 3 items there. We have an appointment to the Public Safety Employee Appeal Board. We have a contract extension for auditing purposes for HMBE LLC and the Financial Audit Committee.
Chair, I'd make a motion then that we adopt the common consent agenda as published.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Blair to adopt the common consent. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ritchie.
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. And up next, we have Barton Brierly, who's going to be speaking with us about a proposed zone text amendment.
Good evening, Chair Chaburka and City Councilors.
It's hard to say.
So this is a recommendation from the Planning Commission on an ordinance to deal with when hotels and motels are proposed to be converted to apartments. And the purpose is to create standards so when that conversion happens, the resulting apartments will be safe, livable, and desirable for the residents and will fit in commercial neighborhoods. So the origin of this, we had several inquiries about converting old hotels into apartments, and we realized that our standards don't really fit very well the circumstance. Also, we were very concerned about what kind of housing that would be and would that really fit in with the community. So the Planning Commission was very interested in us making a proposal to them and to you on standards that would apply to these conversions. So the purpose was not to encourage it or discourage it, but to say that if it's going to happen, let's make sure that we have good standards so that we're happy with the resulting product. So some of the issues, housing needs out there, of course, if you've been in the news at all, you know that there's a real housing need in Utah. And there's a possibility that some of these hotel conversions could meet some of that need. There are crime and social issues to be dealt with. It's a well-documented fact that low-budget motels do spawn various crime issues and safety issues for the residents and the neighborhoods. And the research shows that the longer the tenant stays, the more that those issues can be. And so there's a concern that if these just become, if you have 60-unit hotel and you end up creating 60 small studio apartments that are all hit one demographic, that you could create some problems for that. And one of the ways a lot of communities deal with that is they require some mix of income. So you don't have all people of one income level, one housing type in one area. And so part of the proposal is, instead of saying just convert it all to studio apartments at the lowest possible housing type, let's require that there be some mix of units in there. So that you can have some studios, but let's also have some 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units in there to just try to mix up the housing income types and the housing demographics of people living there. Another is just how do we deal with architectural standards? These are built as hotels and they look like hotels, and how do we really make it into more looking like an apartment? And so this is just an example of one hotel that they went from this to this. It's the same structure. It's just they upgraded the skin. They got rid of that the more motel features and created something that looks more like an apartment. One of the other issues we looked at is just what is a unit, and that do you have just a hot plate and do you clean your sinks in the kitchen or in the bathroom? That's probably fine if you're staying there overnight, but if this is going to be a permanent place, let's make sure that there are facilities in the unit that that you could live there and be your permanent residence. And so some of the basic things that would require in the ordinance would be that you have a stove, an oven, counter space, a sink, and a refrigerator, and that you have a separate electrical service for the refrigerator and the oven, so that your food doesn't spoil because you tripped a circuit breaker and the fridge went off and all your food spoiled. Now, when we brought this to work session, the council had some discussions about should we require an oven, and certainly many people don't use ovens, but others do. And I'd say we looked at this really as long-term, that you might have a unit that's going to be rented for the next 30 years, and there's probably going to be 10, 15, 20 tenants in there, and some of them will never use that oven. You can have it there. It'll be as clean the day they leave as it was when they showed up, because they never use it. But it's a good chance that over 30 years you're going to have tenants that are going to want an oven. And we did look, there are apartment models. You don't have to have the one that you do the full Thanksgiving dinner for 30 people, and there are smaller units that you can get. We also looked at just kind of what's the alternative out there. There are desktop models that you can get of ovens that work in certain circumstances. And I just looked at this picture of this couple cooking a pizza on their little oven that they have on their counter, which probably works great if you've got this big kitchen like they do. They have lots of counter space to devote to that. If we were talking about an apartment unit, you probably have very limited counter space to use it. And just kind of the practicality of, do you put something on top of that then heats up, or is there something behind it that melts what's underneath it? And again, does that have a circuit that you overload the electric circuit and it trips the breaker? How do you clean it? And frankly, how long before this unit ends up in the landfill? So all those reasons were part of the recommendation that we think that just for the quality of the unit that we should require an oven. Now, certainly you're the council and you can decide otherwise. Another issue that we talked about was the issue of gas. And really our intention in writing it was we just want to make sure when we said you need an oven that it wasn't a microwave oven. We wanted something that either 220 electric circuit or gas and something. That's where we said that word gas. And so there was a good discussion at the council meeting about should we allow gas or should we not allow gas? And so so why do we even have gas in our homes and apartments now? Really, it's a cost issue. I mean, prices go up and down, but in a lot of history, gas was considered cheaper than electric. It has less emissions than coal. Part of the strategy for cleaning up the air was getting away from coal and more to natural gas. And some simply prefer cooking on a gas stove, being able to the quality of that. But some of the cons of that, there's concerns about indoor air quality, and you're burning something in your house, and that has emissions, and those emissions are right in your dwelling, and there's studies that show that that does cause some health issues. And it still is a fossil fuel. You're still burning something, and if I have an electric stove, I can put a solar panel on my roof and collect some energy and heat it, but I can't do that with natural gas. So there are concerns about that too. So what's the kind of current status? There are many jurisdictions that are looking at doing a ban on new natural gas appliances. California just passed in the California Building Code, you can no longer do gas appliances in your new homes. There's federal agencies looking at doing bans. There's various cities that are looking at or have adopted bans on gas hookups. And it's the other way too. Arizona passed a ban on bans that says local cities, you cannot ban electricity or gas appliances in your city. So I think there's still a question of whether we can ban or not. I think if you look at it as a building code issue, then that's a state building code, and we probably can't. But if you look at more zoning, it's still a bit of up for debate. I will say that we're looking at tonight. We're looking at circumstances where a hotel or motel is converted to an apartment, which is a pretty narrow slice of the whole natural gas question. This is kind of what natural gas use is generally in the country. And so it's certainly an issue that we can look at. If you'd like us to do more research, we can on kind of the bigger policy question of this. The biggest bang would be probably if we had a general rule of like new residential construction couldn't have it. That would have a very big bang. So it's really up to again, you guys make the decisions.
Well, I think I was just going to mention too, one of my concerns was the cost of the renovation to then install gas piping throughout an entire structure. That was part of my issue too.
Yeah.
That would cost a lot more than just upgrading the electrical.
Yeah, and I think practically speaking, most hotels are currently not plumbed with gas, and so if they converted, they probably wouldn't do that, but they conceivably could. So again, it's up to the council if they want to do it on this amendment, or if you want to do it as a bigger policy issue. It's up to you. The Planning Commission's recommended that we do the zoning ordinance update, which would require the mix of units, require certain elements to constitute a kitchen, it would require on-site management, and it would establish and clarify the standards for open space amenities and architectural designs. So that's the Planning Commission recommendation.
So I'm just going to, I'm the one that asked about gas. And more so, not that it was gas, but maybe even looking at, can we require Energy Star efficiencies? Requiring something that is maybe higher in energy efficiency as opposed to just, banning gas altogether, I guess. So, like I said before, I'm not going to fall on my sword with the gas, but I think, from a standpoint of can we do it better, I think we can with probably a similar kind of outcome for the resident that's going to live there. So,
any other comments or questions for Barton?
I don't, is anybody else interested in looking at an Energy Star efficiency kind of code change in this amendment, or?
Yeah, I would definitely support that, but I can't really.
Well, I would suggest if that's the case, and then instead of doing it on the fly, maybe tabling it till next week or the week after to review with and I'd be happy to, again, I think I sent you some of the information that I had received, and so.
You just have to make that motion, and I can't second them.
I make the motion that
Somebody
we
else?
table it until whatever date certain is, not long after. I don't think it would take long to go through it and see if that's even a possibility, so.
I think our next meeting is not next week, but it's 2 weeks away, to the 21st.
Yeah, you might want to go just a little bit longer to make sure staff can get the changes they need, so maybe March 7th?
You're looking at the calendar, so that sounds good to me. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second it. Yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial for us to look at it and make sure that what we're doing is the best product we can actually produce. So I don't think a little more time hurts us in any way, and I think maybe it actually benefits us and those who are going to be renting those units. So.
Okay, great. So we have a motion by Councilmember White and a second by Councilmember Blair to table this item until March 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
So that passes with one no vote. Would you like to talk about your vote?
I think we're okay to vote on this. I think that issue is further down the road than the broader issue of this thing. I think we, if this were to pass, then we would talk about that. I don't think this is part of that necessarily. That's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. Great. Well, we'll have a chance to look at it more closely. All right. Next, we're going to invite Brandon Rippian, the Senior Planning Manager, I'm guessing, from the Community Economic Development Department to talk about the Moderate Income Housing Implementation Plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. So tonight before you, oops, there we go. There's a proposal for a change to the general plan's housing element regarding moderate income housing. And so just really quick for the audience. So what is moderate income housing? Moderate income housing is housing that's available or affordable for a household that earns 80% of the county's area median income, which in Weber County is $74,345. And then 80% of that is, as shown on here, $59,476, which basically means that a housing unit that is around $1,400 a month would be considered attainable for a household that is moderate income. One of the issues we face in Utah is, well, probably nationwide, a lot of families struggle with their cost burden because of housing costs. And that's because they're spending more than 30% of their gross income monthly on housing. So that's something that is constantly a battle. So this just shows some of the math of what someone that earns 80% of the area median income could afford, and that's a home around $277,000, which is today difficult to find. And that's based on a 30-year mortgage with a 5% interest rate. So the state also wants to help cities provide more affordable housing, not affordable, but moderate income housing. And so in 2019, the state legislature adopted Senate Bill 34, which required cities to adopt a moderate income housing element as part of their general plan, and also required cities to report on how they were compliant with the state's requirements. So fast forward, so in last year, 2022, the legislature adopted House Bill 462, which made changes to Senate Bill 34. So these are some of the changes that that House Bill 462 made. So it discussed the requirements that cities had to adopt new strategies that House Bill 462 required. It requires cities to adopt an implementation plan. Also, there were new strategies that were added that cities could select from. And then also talked about when cities would be required to report on how they were meeting the standards for moderate income housing, and also added incentives and restrictions for cities that were either compliant or non-compliant to House Bill 462. So I'll just go through these briefly. So as I stated before, House Bill 462 added 5 additional strategies that cities could select from and add to their moderate income housing plan. So cities are required to at least have a minimum of 3 strategies. Ogden is required to have 4 because we have what are called fixed guideway transit stations, or a transit station that has either a rail or a dedicated lane as part of that station. And so that requires us to adopt at least 4 strategies in our moderate income housing element. So as I stated, so there are 4 that are required for Ogden. And because we have fixed guideway transit stations, there are 2 that we must include in our in the 4. And so strategy V, it's called that based on the House Bill 462. So that's not necessarily what we're calling it. So strategy V is we're required to develop and adopt stationary plans for 6 of our stations. 6 of the transit stations meet those requirements of a fixed guideway transit station. So we're required to adopt strategy V as well as either G, H, or Q. So we have adopted 10 strategies, and 8 of those strategies are match what the state requires, and the highlighted strategies are one of those 4. So this is just a list of all the strategies that we are proposing that we adopt in our moderate income housing, our housing element. One of the other requirements that House Bill 462 requires is an implementation plan that has timeline and an action plan, so steps that discuss how we're going to accomplish our strategies. This is just an example of one strategy with the action and the timeline. And then this map actually shows along the Wasatch Front where those stations are located that are required to have a station area plan. So as I stated before, Ogden has 6. One of those stations is the Front Runner station, and then there are 5 BRT or bus rapid transit stations that meet the requirement. And this is just UTA's map of the BRT route that shows the Front Runner station and the 5 BRT stations that are required to have a station area plan. And the state in House Bill 462 also states when cities are required to adopt a station area plan. So Ogden is required to adopt at least 4 station area plans by the year 2025, and then any additional station area plans must be adopted by 2026.
Can I ask a question about that last one? We have other stops on that BRT line. Why don't they require it?
Yeah, good question. So It's called a fixed guideway transit station. So if the station either has a rail or has a dedicated lane.
It's the dedicated lane.
It's the
Okay,
dedicated
that
lane.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's the difference between the other BRT stations.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So the House Bill 462 also allocated funding where cities can submit for grants to hire consultants to help with or help the cities with a stationary plan. So that's an option that we have. And cities, so the incentive that cities have to adopt more than just the minimum strategies is this, it's a category called priority consideration. And so if cities, well, for Ogden City, we have a minimum requirement of 4. So if we adopt 6 strategies, then we can qualify for what's called priority consideration. So when we apply for funding for transportation through the TIF or TTIF funds, we get bumped up higher in priority. So there's definitely incentive for us to adopt more than just the minimum of 4. And we're actually proposing 10. So we definitely exceed that requirement. So,
Are you aware of if we're going to apply for any of those grants and what for?
I've been told that we apply for those every year, but I don't know if.
Oh, no, that's okay. If you don't know right now, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head specifically. Also, we're required to submit an annual report that explains how we're meeting or how we're accomplishing our strategies. And in 2023, there will be more requirements. We'll have to really spell out how we're accomplishing our actions and meeting our timeline for each of those strategies. So the City Council tonight, we want you to consider the amendments that we're proposing for the housing element to meet the requirements of House Bill 462 that require us to adopt specific strategies, also to adopt the implementation plan, and we'll also submit the report to the state to meet that requirement. So staff recommends the City Council adopt the general plan or the proposed general plan amendment with the proposed changes regarding moderate income housing. So with its strategies and implementation plan. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments or discussion?
No, good job. We need to get it done.
Thanks. Oh, that's fine. Oh, you're good. No worries.
It's okay. Oh, and it looks like we can receive input from the public as well. So if there's anyone that would like to comment on this item, you can step to the podium, or if you're online, you can raise your hand. Is anybody rushing? Anybody online, Brandon? That's okay. Welcome to state your name for the record.
Teresa Bramwell. I would like to get a copy of this. Can I get a copy of this from you?
It should be
Because I
available in
think
the
this will affect me. My property's on 25th and Monroe. I wanted to pull up the real estate listings while I was sitting there before I had to get up here and speak, so I could tell you how many listings there are under 277,000, which I didn't have time to do, but I suspect that number is very, very, very low, even in the city of Ogden, which might be considered one of the most affordable areas in Utah. So I think if we're legitimately talking about creating real estate that people can purchase that is under the price of $277,000, we have a long way to go, because that does not exist. It doesn't exist in Ogden. It doesn't exist anymore in Roy. It definitely doesn't exist in Salt Lake or Huntsville or Eden or, any of these places. So I am curious how this non-existent thing is expected to come about. Do we have a plan for this? I mean, I see that there's a general plan, but what's the more specific plan that says this is the product we're going to be offering and this is how we're going to create it? Because there just isn't the land. There's no land. There's no land. So I have a lot of questions. I think many questions have been left unanswered. I just don't think it's doable. I think this is a fantasy that we're talking about, and until somebody's coming up with a lot more specifics to say how we're going to get there, I don't think this exists. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to answer if you'd like to, or we can take the rest of the comments, and then if you have some answers, you can provide them. I don't see anybody else in the audience, so we'll go online. It looks like Linda, you're up first. You'll have to take yourself off mute and then just state your name for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Linda, and I was trying to look at those graphs on the phone, and I just can't see them. Is there a place where I can actually view those? And then I would like to overview those, but also I kind of agree. I'm a nurse, and we have just one income, and if it weren't for certain circumstances, I wouldn't have the situation that I have now. It just kind of worries me. What are we giving up if we're taking this a plan? Is there something that people are giving up to have this? There's generally nothing is for free. And when I was raised, I was always just raised to live within your means. So it just kind of concerns me how this is going to come about and what actually people are going to be expected to do to have that. Anyways, if you could just let me know where I could view that, that would also be great. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I think you can view these documents through the council packet, which is on our website. If you look at Ogden City Council, there's a place where you can find our agendas. Angel Castillo.
Good evening. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. As always, I am extraordinarily grateful for the council's insistence on making sure that these meetings are available via Zoom for those who are in transit. I'm actually sitting in the parking lot right now because I just got here. So I really appreciate that. So thanks for Brandon doing such a great job facilitating that. I agree with Teresa. And I think I agree with Linda in the aspect of there aren't any homes, not many, that are available for under 270. The number that we really need to make sure that our teachers and first responders have places to live is about 250. And the only way we're going to do that is to do something differently. And I'm surprised and thrilled to say that, this is one thing that the legislature did that makes me very happy, because we now have metrics. We now have to say how we're going to go to a particular place, how many of those homes exist. So I'm grateful for that. So obviously I'm urging you to approve this, but I'm also urging you and asking you to dig a little deeper and figure out what we're going to do to provide this housing. And I've been talking about this since 2018, and it's first-time home ownership is going to have to look a little different. It's going to have to be a little smaller to make it pencil for the developers, and that will make the price go down. So we have to think creatively and look to what other cities are doing to create smaller units per purchase, and not necessarily just a condo, but a smaller home. And that's going to require us changing our zoning and really connecting with the community to engage them as where could this go? Because every person who owns a home, we're going to continue to grow, but it shouldn't be out of control. Homeowners should be more engaged in the process, and I'd like to ask the city to be more intentional with how they reach out to those homeowners to get that input, because we need buy-in and we need smaller homes for purchase on lots, and changing our zoning so that it makes it more affordable for our first responders and our teachers and our nurses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Heath Sato.
Hey there, Heath Sato. I can't even say my own name. Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I just when we're discussing these housing issues, it's often talked about how much moderate income housing we have here, and I just want you all to remember in these discussions that the Weber County AMI is higher than Ogden by itself. So when it said we have lots of moderate income housing, the numbers are being skewed quite a bit by the incomes of people that don't live in Ogden. And the other thing I found odd is that we kind of, I don't know how this got pushed back, and we've been out of compliance on this for like 3-4 months now. It seems like we may have waited to address it until after we push through a very large project that doesn't even begin to address these new guidelines. I feel like that may have been a sticking point had we pushed this through earlier. So it makes me concerned for how things might be being handled. So just some things to think about. Thanks.
Thanks. And Fisher Reagan Enterprises.
Yeah, I'm actually had allotted time to speak about the hotel conversions or motel conversions. Is that something I can do later, or can I do it right now?
Do you mind waiting till public comment? I'm sorry, I missed that on the agenda.
Absolutely.
It'll
No
just
worries.
be another
Thank you.
moment. Thank you.
No worries.
Dane.
Cheers. You bet.
Good. Any other discussion? There are a couple questions there. If you're prepared to answer, that would be great. Maybe, do you know what they are? Do you want me to?
Well, so yeah, one of the questions was, well, I think there may be some confusion as far as why we're doing this. So the state, requires the cities to have a moderate income housing plan and to adopt specific strategies. There's as part of the implementation plan, we do document, how many homes we have within each category, so low, moderate, and I guess market rate. And I guess the reality is that a lot of families are cost burdened, and they are spending more on housing than they should be. But that's a statewide problem. It's not Ogden, it's specific Ogden problem. So I don't know, if there are a lot of answers. More housing, does help, but also the state has other funding opportunities where, if cities want to apply for those, then that's one method that we can use to try to lower housing costs, but cities can't do it on their own. And really the control we have is to have policies that allow the development community to build housing that's more affordable. So
Great.
I don't know if I answered the question, but
Like
those were
how
the thoughts I
specific,
had. Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's a broader question. So do you feel like there are plans to make a more specific plan to address that? Because somebody was asking for more specifics.
Well, yeah. So for the reporting, for 2023, cities are required to explain specifically either how they're meeting the strategy or why they're not. If there are market changes or, there are decisions that are made that don't allow us to meet a specific strategy, then we have to explain why. But yeah, there are a lot of things that are out of our control, but there are some things that we can control. So did that maybe answer the question, I hope?
And then there was another question, and again, I wasn't positive exactly what Linda was asking, but something about what are people giving up, and so maybe that was part of the misunderstanding, but I don't know if you understood that differently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people are giving up anything for us to adopt this moderate income housing element. It's going to just encourage more, or I guess better policies to provide more moderate income housing. So I don't think it doesn't restrict us in any way. So.
And then Heath just had a question about the deadline.
Oh, right. Yeah, so we knew that the deadline was coming up, so we initially submitted the report, and we submitted a draft of the amendment to the general plan. And so they required, as part of the reporting, they required us to submit the ordinance that was adopted. And so it got kicked back, and that's the reason. It wasn't because of any other project. It was because it was they needed the ordinance to be adopted.
Any other questions or comments? Or any other questions I missed?
No, I just have a comment, and I think one of the things that we're missing is that this is a requirement by the state, and every city is being asked to submit a moderate income housing plan. And so it's not just us coming up with our plan, it's every city coming up with their plan as well. And so it's just, it's a requirement. It's one of those requirements from the state that I keep telling, that they just keep pushing down onto us. But I think that, it's a requirement that we have to do, so. Not just us, it's everyone that's having
Chair,
to
if
do
I,
it.
if I could kind of add to that, Angel, when you made your appeal for affordable housing for purchase, man, I'm with you. The problem is this for purchase aspect, we can't legislate that. That's going to have to happen above our pay grade. The state makes these requirements, as Councilmember White said. Cities have to make the plan to comply with what the state requirement is, but it's the developers that do the building. And hopefully this plan will enable the developers to build something better, but there's no guarantee it's going to be for purchase. And in my experience, it's probably not going to be that. And I don't think we have any control over that. I wish we did. I seriously do. But yeah, I think this is, in my mind, is a housekeeping issue that we're doing today. It's something we are required to do. We have, and from what I can tell from what the legislators that I've spoken to about this, Ogden is certainly not the offender in this area, but we do have to, cross the T's and dot the I's and do all the things that make us compliant with the law. And we're already doing a pretty good job, at least compared to the surrounding communities and the people along the Wasatch Front. So I don't know that there's any reason for any alarm. I don't sense any anyway. So, but I'm glad that we've got this done and we can get this thing behind us. But I really do wish there was some way we could address this for purchase thing. And I don't know what it is, but maybe that's something that we need to be talking to our legislators about, because right now they've given us no tools for that at all. So.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to take a motion if that's all discussion we have.
Chair, I'd make a motion then that we adopt ordinance 2023-8.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski to adopt proposed ordinance 2023-8. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ritchie,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Well, thanks everyone for the great discussion. And thank you, Brandon. Great, well, up next.
Chair
Please.
Chaburka, we haven't had an issue come up. If we could return to the standards for hotel and motel conversions for just a minute.
Yeah.
James Tanner from the City Attorney's Office has been listening, and he notified us that there is a pending ordinance notice on this that expires February 19th. And so if the ordinance is not adopted before then it's possible that some developers could come in and not be required to make the changes that are set forth in this ordinance.
What was the date we chose? Need a motion to reconsider by one of y'all. I can't do it.
That might
I'm
be.
free on Valentine's Day if it means anything.
Nice of you. Real big of you.
I mean, you can come over to my house if you want to, yeah. You're going to get a bunch of offers now. That might be what Thane was trying to comment about too. Should we allow him to speak very quickly? Is that
No, that's a different
an
issue.
issue?
Different issue.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, one is public comment, one is the attorneys ruining all of our fun. Yeah. Good catch. I liked, I guess there's some wisdom to tabling it to the date certain so that we can get it right. There's also some wisdom to making sure we meet these deadlines and then we can revisit if we need to. So I'll make a motion to reconsider the motion to table to March 7th.
I think you can just do a straight motion to adopt if that's what you choose to do to vote on it. You don't have to
Okay.
go through the double step.
Seem okay?
I don't. There was a receive input on that.
Yeah.
Do we want to open that?
I was just going to say, if you're going to do a motion,
Before we motion
if you're going to
adopt?
consider adoption, you might want to take input on it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's do that first. Let's take input on the standards for hotel and motel conversions to multifamily residences, which is a very long title. And is there anyone in the audience that would make comment about that? You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record, and then we'll go online.
Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I was a little surprised that we didn't have a comment on that.
I missed it. I apologize. I missed
But
it.
I figured I was happy because you tabled it, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you to do. My comments are my own as a citizen, do not reflect any organization that I am a part of, because I'm going to talk about an organization that's near and dear to my heart, and that's YCC. And for those of you that don't know, YCC is a sexual assault, domestic violence shelter that helps people pull their lives back together. And it's a wonderful organization, and if you're looking for a charitable donation, they are doing a capital campaign right now, and their capital campaign is for housing. And the reason that they're building housing is there are people who come to have services and get help and have to go back to their abusers, even though they've been through the program for a year and a half, because we have a challenge right now with affordable housing. And what I'm worried about is putting so many regulatory limitations on a developer coming in and doing something that has to pencil. Developers are not charitable organizations. They have to put bread on their table too. And we've got some great developers that do a good job of not being greedy and go long with LIHTC. But I fear that by really hobbling this conversion of a hotel, you're going to be removing that possibility of a person with a child who needs a place to stay that is way below market rate, and that would be a converted hotel. So I understand that we have a February 19th thing we're hurtling towards, but I'd ask you to try to figure out how you can wrestle with that and figure out what's absolutely essential, because there should be regulations, there should be design guidelines, and I totally get it. We want to make sure that we aren't encouraging the type of behavior or that we don't want. But I'd also like you to balance that so that there are clients of domestic violence shelters that have places to go when there's no more hotel vouchers to give out, when there's no more money from the Board of Equalization. Please just think about that and maybe consult some folks that do this for a living and see what price point that is and where those points might lie. And I'm hoping that Thane, as a developer, will maybe be able to shed some light on that as well. Thank you.
Teresa Bramwell. I have a couple of comments because I have some experience in this. I own a couple of, I own a condominium that's a part of a larger hotel that has a front desk. And some of the things that were being required by Barton, like adding a full-size stove to a studio unit, I think is something that's going to drive the cost up and is not necessary for that size of a unit. I own several studios. None of them came with stoves. They're perfectly functional without a stove. I think if you have a 2-bedroom unit where you have a family living with children, a stove is appropriate, and it maybe could be required. But you have to consider that all of these regulations that you're putting on the developers and the people who are trying to create this housing, every cost that is charged by the city, every regulation that they have to then put in this infrastructure to create all these laws that you're creating, those are all money that's going to end up with the end user. The developer isn't going to eat those costs. The developer is going to say, this is how much this cost me, and this is how much you, end user, are going to pay for it. Another thing about the electric and the gas. I own a condo in a ski resort where it used to only be electric. There was no gas service to the condo. The problem was that the electricity either gets shut off by the electric company for their service, or a tree falls down and knocks over the electric service, and then you have no heat, because that's what's creating the heat. So then the whole building freezes, and then you have about $10,000 worth of water problems and icicle problems. And so, gas is important to have in these, especially for heat. And I would prefer to see buildings like this that are being converted be turned into condominiums rather than apartments. But either way, you have to understand that all the costs that you're forcing onto these developers or anybody who's trying to build anything is going to end up with the end user. So if you're trying to create lower income housing, cut the costs from the government. The government is forcing the costs. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience online. Oh, thanks for your patience online. Looks like we have one more speaker here.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I'm Carolyn from Ogden here. Hi, how are y'all doing? With respect to this modification on the ovens and stoves, and the fellow that did the speaking, talking about greenhouse gases and climate change and all that, I want to refer you to a NASA chart, January 2023, no increase in global warming. It's a fear tactic to drive you guys to make bad decisions. Global warming. The whole idea is to draw you guys into the idea of consolidating power and consolidating the people into the cities, driving them into housing where they won't have any choice, an open-air prison with human cattle. You have to be very cautious and be very discerning with respect to these mandates coming from the state. Where is our attorney? Why is he not pushing back on an illegal mandate from the state? To drive this requirement is going to require taxation of the people. And as I mentioned, Councilman Heyer, that it's against the Constitution to confiscate our property in the form of taxes without just compensation. It's called due process under Article 5, Amendment 5. What's your due process for taking and taxing us into oblivion? What is your due process for that? You don't have any. There's no justification for it. The people are out on the street because of taxes and inflation and regulation, making it unpopular or unsustainable for companies and developers to create cost-effective housing. Look at those things. See where you guys can cut regulation and make it more friendly for developers to do development that would be attractive and be affordable for folks that don't have means to go ahead and buy your fancy Wonder Block housing. I mean, frankly, the whole Wonder Block thing, $160 million y'all approved for that project, you could buy every homeless person in Ogden a house for that. I mean, the whole idea, you guys are wrapped up in a little rabbit hole here, and you're going down into a place where you're going to strip all of our rights, and you don't even see it coming. We're going to go over here. I'm going to be coming, and we're going to start learning some Constitution, some understanding and fiscal responsibility. You're going to start learning that from us, because it's critical that at this level, you guys push back on illegal state mandates. I know you all are a corporation, but there's still, we elect you. You're representatives of the people. And we expect you to uphold your oath of office to honor and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's all we demand from you, is to do that. And when you do that and you put everything in that context, things become much clearer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll be able to go online now with you, Thane. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you for the opportunity, council members. I would like to speak in reference to the hotel conversion. Let me go over to my notes if I could. We have not had a positive experience with what we've had with hotel conversion around our subject properties. And, and I don't know the year, but the Park Avenue Apartments was an Embassy Suites that became a multifamily, and it's had a lot of problems. We redeveloped the Perry Apartments next door, and even though it has been upgraded, we've still continued to have a lot of issues with that facility. It's not been a positive experience by any means. Although I do think that there is a huge need for the affordable housing, and I think you're making steps. Some of the things, I would just be very cautious to rush into this, to be honest with you. I think it may be a good solution, but some of the things that you've done, I like, but I would like to see possibly more 1- and 2-bedroom requirements if there is going to be a conversion versus just studios. I do think minimum kitchen appliances. I was in the hotel business for years, and hotel units are designed for transit use, less than 30 days. That's not designed for a multifamily or long-term, more than 30 days. So I think having the kitchen appliance requirements, larger food prep areas, I think those are very wise. I would not allow microwaves and hot plates as substitutes. We at the Perrys, I do agree that gas is a great way to have central heating and provide heating, but for ranges, we chose not to do the gas ranges because, one, they are more expensive, but secondly, there was safety issues. If someone was to leave one on, we had very strong concerns about the safety side of it. The other thing I would recommend is maybe a 90-day minimum. I would make sure that it's governed as residential, multifamily, state and city laws and ordinances versus I would not have a mix of use where half of it's transient, or some of it can be less than 30 days and some of it be multifamily. I think it needs to either be one or the other. And then, again, I don't know if there's any longer than 5-year data on the success of such projects. I can only speak to our own experience. And I think it would be really interesting to see if somebody had some data on that. And then, last but not least, you're only as good as your enforcement. And, if it's not being enforced, how do you manage the violators? We've just gone through and I think the city obviously knows, the courtyards had long-term and short-term, and it turned out to be a nightmare and cost millions of dollars to solve. So I just be very careful. It might be, what you showed us, I liked, but as far as I'd be very careful of making this where it's not a knee-jerk reaction. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other input? Okay. Okay. What would we like to do?
Say that again.
What is it?
I think anybody can make a motion to adopt or not adopt,
To
whatever
adopt.
it is.
And then if we did that, we're saying that we would revisit it later, but then you're saying that there's some people that will start to build based on this ordinance.
Well, if you don't adopt it now, they could adopt it under old standards, which means this ordinance wouldn't apply.
Right. But if they start to develop under under this one that we're going to pass, we wouldn't change it on the midstream, right? They would start building, like if they started building the day after we pass it, then they would still just be held to that standard versus whatever we might revisit.
I think so.
Sorry, I'm trying to do a hypothetical here that.
So, Chair, do you want to let Gary answer
Oh,
that
yeah, please,
question real
Gary.
quick first?
So they're held to the standard at the date of their application, okay? And so your opportunity tonight is to set the standard before an application comes in. And then you could always change that standard in the future. But those applications that had gone in the meantime would go under the old standard. And so, for example, if you wanted to make a change in the future of efficiency and that sort of thing, you can still do that. It just won't apply to those who had applied in the meantime.
Chair, if I can.
Oh, wait, I think that Councilmember Blair had.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think Gary answered what I was going to. I just thought it was. I appreciated what Councilmember Heyer said, that that maybe now isn't the right time to look at this, but we can look at it down the road, so I appreciate that, and I think Gary just implied that with saying what we can do now, this, and then we can change those later if we want to. So that's what I was thinking.
This was kind of my point, is that we're talking about ABC, and those kind of details are really RS something, they're further down the road. And my thinking is, when somebody builds a dwelling unit, rarely is it furnished anyway with any kind of an appliance. And so people usually provide those on their own. They may not in this case because of the type of housing it ends up being, but they're going to put in whatever's cheapest, is my guess. And so I'm not sure it's a huge concern, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Whether it's a gas stove or an electric stove or whatever it might be. And so those are some of my initial issues. I am kind of compelled, as I read the staff report and the packet, there are really kind of three things that really concern me about this, and Barton brought it up, the crime and social issues that surround this. No, that wasn't Barton, that was you, all right. Anyway, those I think are real, and those I think the Quality Neighborhoods initiative that we passed 7 years ago or so was aimed at solving some of the problems that I think this is going to create. And so the other thing, partly because the location of motels typically is in areas that are, CBD-ish, commercial, and not optimal for these kind of things. We've taken some of these things out that have ended up being a problem in the past. I have a hard time. The other thing that I think was in the paper article, the newspaper article, it talked about this will very likely create a shortage of hotel rooms too. So that's another thing that would, whatever you don't do, you do something else kind of a thing. I have a hard time getting behind this for those reasons. And so I just thought I'd throw that out so nobody said you didn't say anything before. So there you go.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. I think one of the reasons why I brought it up the last time in our work session, and I guess I'm somewhat disappointed that it's taken this long and then it got put on our agenda without any comments or any conversation in between, and nothing has changed since the last time. I guess there's a disappointment of that. I think one of the things that we are here to do is not just to create red tape and as other people say, increase prices and all of that. We're here to create to make decisions with building codes and those kind of things for not just a few people, but for all people. And I think that we forget that this is a group of people that we continue to say that might need affordable living, but we're going to put maybe a small kitchenette in there. And that's just, I guess, we have a responsibility to all the people. And I think that that's where I was coming from. And trying to create something that's not just throwaway for, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, but we're actually going to create a space where they can live for a very long time, or someone can live for a very long time. And so that's why I was bringing this up. I think more than anything, just disappointed that we are at the nth hour and having this discussion when we could have been having it all along. And so, I know we're down to we can make changes later, but I guess I'm trying to look at it from, we don't need to build to the lowest common denominator, and that's where I'm coming from. So,
yeah, I agree, and I think, that's a challenge that we're always up against the deadline. And for me, much the same reasons that I would love to see a few changes in the standards. There's a lot to consider. So this is a challenge. So what is the current ordinance? If we didn't pass this, would people be able to?
I think maybe have Barton address that.
Yeah, tell us what the current. So if, we're saying, we're up against this deadline that people won't be able to apply. So what's the other option?
So if people build under the current ordinance, one of the things is they can build all studio apartments. It's vague what they have to do for a kitchen, so they could do a hot plate and a microwave for a kitchen.
So let me clarify. So you don't support this, but you support that being in place? Is that what you were saying?
No, I don't support that even.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm just getting confused. Okay.
So you don't support neither?
Yeah.
No.
So what are you proposing that we do?
Well, I don't know.
I'm
I'm
confused.
just confused. Me too.
I'm starting to get really
that
confused.
either. I think hotel conversions are a bad idea. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, my challenge is I know that we're like saying, we'll work on it later, but that happens so often, and then we never get a chance to follow up and work on it later for various reasons. Not that it's somebody's fault, but that's one of my concerns, is that we pass it today, and then in a couple months, we have somebody back here mad at us about it because we haven't updated it yet.
We do set the agenda, so we guess if we wanted to, we could put it on there and
It's true.
prioritize it.
It's true, but there's so many things like that, so it's hard to
Yeah.
keep
I'm
up.
just saying for this one, if you
You're going to
wanted
hold
to.
me accountable for making sure we do
what
it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what you need,
yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, you two got that power. You do have that power to do that.
Got you.
That's true. No,
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay, well, let me know what you'd like to do.
Man, we want to go home. That's
So
what
Bart-
we want
Or
to do.
come back on Valentine's Day.
They can do motel conversions under our current ordinance. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes.
I think we need to bring this back to a work session to talk it through. What?
Just need to renotice. We needed to renotice it, or
on another night.
we have to
I-
renotice all together, right?
I mean,
If we're to buy more time, we're gonna have to.
If you don't want to adopt it now, but you want to meet the deadline, you'd have to have another meeting. The other option is if you go ahead and adopt it, and then we just put it right back on an agenda for discussion and to change it.
That's kind of what I was
If
trying
I
to say.
promise you, we will have it on
Yeah.
the agenda for the meeting afterwards.
Yeah.
Remind me of that, Ken.
I'm kind of deferring to you guys. I don't want to.
Yes, Madam Chair.
With the makers of the original motion, I'm deferring to them to
Yeah.
respect for that.
Yeah, we want to respect what you are wanting. How do you feel about that, Marcia?
Yeah, that's fine. I just, I
We'll bring
think,
it back around.
yeah, and it may not change. I think more than anything, we need to have the discussion on should it change, and that's.
Sure.
For sure. Okay.
Is everybody happy that we need to be doing this in our town? We need to be doing motel conversions?
I think
I think they can already do it now.
I think if we're going to do it,
If we decided we weren't happy with that, we would maybe do it differently, is what I'm saying.
I mean,
That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
the question.
Well, that could be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
I think this at least raises the standard in the meantime.
I agree too, and that got by me, and I'm sorry about that. I guess I kept thinking that this was going to allow it where it wasn't allowed prior. I don't know why I thought that, but that was just something that was stuck in my head. And with the enlightenment of that they can do a substandard thing, we probably better pass this in my mind. So. Yeah, that's kind of where I find myself to this point because I there's got to be better standards than nothing.
Right.
So,
That's why I was a little confused because I
yeah,
didn't understand that.
I am not
Yeah.
about government overreach either, but you know what? You got to have standards that protect people. Just either the user and the surrounding people around them that have to live by this thing too. So,
We've had plenty of experience with that.
we have. So I'll make a motion if nobody wants to.
Let's just get a motion.
Okay, I will make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2023-7.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Nadolski to adopt proposed ordinance 2023-7. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
No.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
No.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ritchie,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. But we will put it on the work session agenda for our first meeting back. Because I agree with many of the comments that people made as well.
Do you want to get there?
Oh yeah, would the no votes like to give feedback?
No. But thank you.
I think I've said my piece.
Any of the yes votes? Sorry. Okay.
So thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, now we are moving on to public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding questions, concerns, ideas. We may or may not be able to answer the questions in the time allotted, but we will certainly try our best if we can. And really appreciate it if you can just remain civil and courteous.
Couldn't sit there much longer. I fell and got my knee really good before
Oh,
I came here. I've been
no.
sitting here dying.
Are you
thinking,
okay?
Where's some ice? No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm close to the ground, so if I fall, I'm not going to kill myself.
Okay. Please state your name for the
I'm
record when you're
Teresa
ready.
Holmes, and I want to thank all you guys for going over to the Union Station. What you did, you got them to fix it up and paint it and everything else. And I don't think it would have happened without your push. Thank you. I think they did a very good job, and I like Christy. Hold on here.
We like Christy too.
Where is it? Oh, okay. There's this guy by the name of Charles Wyndham. I think he put this out in January. But I mean, he visits historical buildings, railroad yards, and everything. And he says, I was born in Ogden, Utah, and spent my formative years there. Railroads have always held my interest. After retirement, I returned to historic documentation through the camera lens. I photographed historical places, buildings, railroads, locations, etc., primarily in the western United States. U.S., sadly, I have witnessed many historic sites disappear over the years. My perspective is somewhat different because I do not live in the Ogden area now. I spent 24 years in the Denver area, and I watched much of the redevelopment around the Denver Union Station. The comparison of Denver and Ogden seems like a bit like apples and oranges. Is Denver the best model? No. Does Ogden have an MLB stadium 3 blocks away from their station? No. Does Ogden have several light rail lines converging at their station? No. Does Ogden have Amtrak service at the station? No. Will Ogden have Amtrak service in the future? That is a large unknown. Where the hell did it go? I mean, heck. It's right here. One point I agree there is with the purchase of the land under the station. I have dealt with the UP on land issues. Historically, they are very reluctant to part with their land. This is the first step in saving the magnificent building that follows in the reasoning for a top priority full restoration. To a regular person, the terms train station or railroad station describes the building where passengers arrive or depart on the railroad. The railroad nomenclature is slightly different, a station in any location where the train stops. This stop may or not have a building. Term depot. Depot is therefore this. Yeah, I hate this phone.
Thank you so much, Teresa. You can follow up with an email.
Well,
or a
there's
phone
just
call.
one thing I wanted to say.
Okay, well, your time
The
is
Ogden
up.
City Council needs to place renovation funding at the top priority. How about that?
Thank
and
you.
also,
Thank you.
we need to do more to get some more parks for my friend over here.
Okay, thank you so
Okay?
much, Teresa.
And also,
Oh, please.
homeless people
Yeah,
need
please.
a place to live. And
Be respectful.
$1,400 is not
Yeah,
moderate.
be respectful.
I love you guys. I'm here again.
Any other comments? Hi, Sebastian.
Sorry, I am still sick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will try in 3 minutes. I am not coming to complain anybody, but
Do you mind stating your name for the record?
Sebastian Benitez, 3310 Taylor Avenue in Ogden. And I sent to you the email about the Birch Avenue between 36th Street and the campus, the Weaver State, was closed 2 months ago for no reason. No work, 100 feet. Make a lot of snow there, and my knees fall there, many other too. I clean up today. The city don't take care, or the contractor do not take care, and I did it with my razor. I tried to get more information because so many of my neighbors called me and said, Sebastian, can you find out what's going on? Why it's closed there forever and nothing is happened? And I tried to get more information, and I have help. And Travis Hughes from the campus planning, the Weaver State, called me. He gave me some information. And after that, he delivered to Justin Anderson. He is not here today. He told me he is off. He gave me more information about it. This was approved by he said that. This project was approved for Weaver State, build parking lot on both sides and close the street for no more traffic. And he gave the why. The planning commission approved, and he told me that was transferred to the mayor, and the mayor signed it 5 years ago. I request stop, investigate. I made you a question by email, but you respond today. My question, in the future, we can change anything. You can change anything. And we need to know why. Why is the north side do not have the access to the campus? When I go in the field to watch the game, I use that one. I park somewhere there. But that they can still build the parking lot on both sides. The Weaver State own that. But they don't need to close that very important access to the campus. Please, I request to investigate how was the process. Look like it's two commission, a planning commission have some power and city council have different other power. How this mayor can sign it before you know what's going on. That is my request. Thank you.
Thanks, Sebastian.
I am leaving. Sorry, I am sick.
Do we have any response for that? Response. I don't know the whole history of that. Yeah, I don't either. We'll look into that, Sebastian, and find out more information.
I have a response to that because I was at the meeting that it happened.
Oh, great. Would you mind saying your name for the record?
Teresa Bramwell. This was passed, I believe, on December 7th in the Planning Commission meeting. Weber State University got up and said, we want this road for a parking lot, and it's currently an Ogden City road. And they talked about it. The Planning Commission voted on it. I think 2 of the commissioners voted against it. The others voted for it, and so it was passed. And it never came before the planning, or before you, which I was curious why that never happened. Is there something, new law that's been created that the Planning Commission gets to create new laws without the City Council ever hearing about them? Because I think that's kind of the greater issue here, not just this one singular issue. The other thing I want to actually talk about is the crime. Because I have had another incident of crime on my property, 25th and Monroe. I called the police to come arrest a criminal who was on my property. I called 911 and I told them the situation. I took some photos. I said I requested the police to come out and address the issue. And the police never came. I was there for an hour at my property. I was there with my designer for my home, and we all witnessed this individual committing a crime on my property. So I called 911, requested the police. The police never came. The police never called. I never heard from the police. We did look out and see that somebody had come and collected the criminal from the place that he was passed out on my property. I don't know who that person was, but it definitely wasn't the police. There wasn't a police report made. And I feel like that should have been done, and I don't understand why it wasn't. There was a crime. I called the police. There was no police report made. The police never called me to take a report, to get the photos that I had of the incident. The crime needs to be stopped. We need more effective police. We need police presence, specifically on 25th and Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty. Oh.
Hi, I'm Steve Jones, Ogden resident. I'm going to be very short because it's getting well into the evening. I just simply wanted to express gratitude to both the council and the administration for all the progress that's been made at Union Station. It is a huge difference compared to what it was several months ago. And I think it's really a testament to the fact that the community working together with council and administration can really achieve some wonderful things. So just simply ask that you keep the emphasis on continuing to improve what we have at Union Station. It needs to be a world-class a world-class attraction, and it's heading that direction. So let's keep the momentum going. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Good evening, Council. Stephen Van Wagner here once again. I get a pit in my stomach coming up before you. It's not a pleasurable experience. When I came here on October 4th, I thought I was doing a good deed, bringing forth some properties. I thought you all would have just a reason to make the automatic decision. I didn't know that this was going to turn into the next phase of my life, okay? And however, I'm honored. I'm honored. I have been able to talk with a lot of community members, hundreds and hundreds of community members. I've set up a new nonprofit. It's going to be here for a duration to make sure we are protecting our interest of our citizens and our community and our value of life that we all respect here so much. It's been an honor to learn about what parks mean to people in this community because I had a linear view. I came here beating on my chest about soccer, and I didn't realize that, for example, at Grandview Elementary and the Grandview Park site, that there are no sidewalks in that community. And there are young girls and people in wheelchairs, and they don't have the ability to get out and walk around. And so when I think of the park and putting a walking trail system there and expanding the park, I'm not here asking for something for me. I'm not going to get any benefit from this. My kids are growing up. They're not going to play in this park. But you know who is the 87,000 plus people that live in this community and projections of 145,000 that are going to be living here. We need the park space. You guys need the facts. You guys have to have reliable information and reliable facts to make decisions that are in the best interest of us, the citizens, right? And so on this long journey, all the way back to October, which seems like years ago now, the amount of time that's been invested in this, I have not met one citizen that is in favor of building a condo complex, a single-family home, an affordable housing family home, any kind of home on any of these properties. The only folks that I know that want to build on these properties is the 8 or so developers that want to take Mark to lunch, the mayor, and maybe Rich, and a couple of you are oscillating over it. But honestly, please get out, knock on some doors, talk to some people. They're going to tell you what the parks mean to them. It's not my fight. I'm just up here as a voice trying to bring you all the reason that the community is asking. Please take action. I think that Brad would probably be appalled that his name was used in that meeting next door in regards to Weber State, because the BRT is supposed to provide our students the ability to live downtown and connect to the college. I would urge you to please reach out to all of our stakeholders in the community and listen to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Stansfield. I'm a resident of Ogden. I live actually up the street from Grandview Park. I've lived there for about 24 years, and I love Ogden. And so I wanted to speak out a little bit about my own experience with Grandview Park. I mean, I have a lot of experience that way. When my children were younger, my kids would go and play at Grandview Park. They would go play on the toys that were there. They would play basketball. They would do Foursquare or all sorts of other things. They don't do that anymore. And you know why? Because there's nothing in that park. It's grass. Now the city has done some good things. There's a wonderful Bowery there that we use. It's great. The restrooms, awesome. Great addition. So thankful that they're there, especially when you try to get a young child, you can't quite make it home. It's fantastic. But there is one little toy that is ridiculous, to be honest with you. I know I heard in the past there were plans to improve that, but there are no other amenities. There's no like pickleball courts, basketball courts, all these things. That's what's going to get people to come to the park. Right now it's soccer, and that's great. No offense to Mr. Van Wagner, he's doing a great job, and it is needed. But there's so much more that's needed in that area. There needs to be parking there. There is not adequate parking. It's out on the street. It's out on Jackson Avenue. How many times? I can't tell you how many times I almost hit kids. you know, because they're darting out from in between cars parked on the side of the road. It's unacceptable. There's just no reason for that to take place. It's actually gotten better lately, and the biggest reason it's gotten better is because the parents and others have started driving out on the grass. They drive on the grass of the actual school site, and that's where they park their cars. And guess what? I don't worry anymore when I drive down Jackson Avenue because I'm not going to hit a kid because they're over there. They're in the safe place. So again, improvements need to be made. My family, we drive past a park in my neighborhood to go to South Ogden, to go to Birch Creek Park, or to go to 40th Street Park because they have toys. They have amenities, other things like that. We can do that. We can be better. In order to accomplish those things, though, you need more space. If you put parking in that park, you're going to destroy your soccer fields. So we need more space. So please, please consider purchasing that land. It's a needed thing. I have a movie I love called Field of Dreams. And there's a little voice that whispers there, if you build it, they will come. Well, guess what? If you build those amenities and put them in there, people will come to the park and use it. They won't be forced to drive past it. My kids use it now for sledding, occasional party. That's about it. So build the park and people will come and use it. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a race.
Michael Stansfield in support of purchasing the Grandview property. I second everything my husband said. There's no sidewalks by where we live. There is no parking. The playground equipment is one slide that has a little rock climbing wall over the slide. That's all the playground equipment that is at Grandview, literally. So we need a better playground and we need that extra land for the parking. And you can add other things, pickleball courts. The nearest pickleball court is all the way across Harrison up at Mount Ogden Park. We have no parks. I was trying to rack my brain. Where's the nearest park other than the pitiful little Grandview Park? There's none. There's 40th Street Park in South Ogden. That is the only park that's anywhere near us. So our neighborhood needs more. We need you guys to do that. I love all the ideas that have been brought up. The walking path would be fantastic. Parking, pickleball court, better playground. The tables do need to be replaced at the Bowery as well. They're old wooden and falling apart. But another idea that I wanted to present was an all abilities park. So you can find these in a couple other cities throughout the state, and that would be a park that would be made for people with all different types of abilities. So there would be accommodations made for people in wheelchairs, people in walkers, children in wheelchairs and walkers, people that are blind, people that are deaf. There would be all sorts of things that would be able to bring people with all abilities in and allow them to participate in having a fun childhood. So thanks again. Thanks for listening. I have been impressed, Council, as I listened tonight, that I feel that you do have Ogden's best interests at heart. So I congratulate you on that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, I think you'll both be relieved. We just saw some great pictures of the new things that are going to be going into Grandview. So don't panic that there's construction happening because we've seen some good things. Yeah.
So, sorry, but where does it stand? Are you purchasing it, or when is that decision being made?
Yeah, it's been purchased.
No, the property.
Oh, no. Oh, not the property, the equipment. That's what I was talking about. The upgrade. Yeah, the upgrade.
When would that decision be made, and how do people contact you?
Go ahead.
Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. As a planning commissioner, I lost my mind when we had a particular piece change usage and it was right next to the fire station, and it became a quick quack car wash. And I lost my mind because I spent a lot of time with Greg. I'm a big Strong Towns fan, so is Greg, and all about use and people-oriented design. And once a usage changes, it never comes back. It is, the chances of it coming back and doing something that it was before are highly, highly unlikely, which is why I lost my mind about that car wash, because it was near a neighborhood where people could walk for things, food, vets. The point is that we shouldn't be doing super car-centric stuff. Everybody will tell you that, and all of you have said that you want the pedestrian, paseo, walkable experience, and Designing for Cars does that. And y'all have heard about the social determinants of health and that people do well with green space. Dr. Kathleen Paco-Cadman wrote an op-ed, and there's all sorts of data that says we need green space. And there's all sorts of data that says that kids need after-school sports to be able to thrive, to learn leadership. And, you know, thank you, Steve, for doing all that work. And I've looked at some of the things that Steve has posted, and y'all have incorrect data with regards to how much actual park space, green space you have. That number is wrong, and if you're a planner, it's inconsistent with the general plan. So you really need to purchase this, because if this goes away, you're never getting it back. And you know, I know you all know that I do not shut up about housing, but there's a compromise. There's a compromise right here, and you can, as the RDA and CRA, bond for this. You're willing to bond $160 million for no affordable housing, for no guaranteed anchor tenant, for a parking garage that may or may not solve your problem and doesn't have a revenue stream, but you won't bond for family and kids and green space that's proven with white paper after white paper that it's beneficial to a community, that it's beneficial to individuals. I hear everybody here constantly say they're about families. This is about families. You can partner with the Boys and Girls Club. I have 2 developers that if you gave them that property, they would build things for the community, and you can put housing around the edges, just like a golf course. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but you do have to purchase the property if you're really and truly about friends and family and kids.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? We'll go online to Heath Sato. Oh, Carolyn's coming up. Sorry, Heath.
No, that's okay. Sorry. Carolyn Lee Tuvinikas from Ogden. So one of the councilmen spoke earlier and said something about that legislating for purchasing requirements. And I don't know about you, but that struck me as a very concerning statement, because the idea that legislatures should be legislating for purchasing property so that they can sell it or do whatever, that's not your job. You're not supposed to be buying houses for the people. We the people, when our finances are not being stolen from us, have the means to do our own buying. The idea is for you to facilitate, get government out of the way, get regulation out of the way, make it logical for development to come in, and be thoughtful and prudent about that. And you guys, it appears to me, do a good job of that. I'm just not disparaging your efforts on that. And I'm grateful that there are elected folks that do that sort of thing. I don't have time to read that every day. But I look at it from a constitutional perspective, right? And you're going to hear it from me 1,000 times if you've not heard it once, okay? Socialism. Based on Articles 3 and 4, Amendments 5, 9, and 13 of the United States Constitution. The Utah Constitution, Section 1, 2, and 3 talks about the United States Constitution. Utah respects that Constitution. Article 127, fundamental, points you back to the recurrence of fundamental rights, which is the Constitution, and natural rights, the right to property, in the common law. That we the people, the power of legislature is in the people. And if the government goes rogue, we have the power in the people to take it back. Now, I don't want you all to be on that receiving end of that sort of initiative. But that's where it goes, right? Once the people, the Declaration of Independence is very clear. It's not a checklist of things that we should be doing. And it is really, that's exactly what's going on. It's being used right now as a checklist of things that we can do to constrain the people, to tyrannize the people, to bring in socialism to take over our country. If you haven't read the Declaration of Independence, the original one, You need to go and read it, because if you look in there and just see how many of these things you see existing in government right now. And while I echo the sentiments of my fellow constituents here about having green space, it's important to do that. Encourage development. My fellow citizens, find developers, find investors to do that work. We've been conditioned to believe that only government can do it, and it's so far from the truth. You guys could do it. Your excellent speaking ability, you could probably rally the troops and buy that property. Anyway, thank you for indulging.
Thank you. Okay. Hisato online. State your name for the record and take your 3 minutes.
Hi, Hisato, Ogden resident. I love the presentations from cherished members of our community tonight. It reminds me how the city is made great by the people that live and work right here in Ogden. I've lived in small towns and big cities all over the US, and I chose to make Ogden my home because of the people that live here. And in the work session, I was pleased to hear the concern many of you expressed regarding a home the city is considering buying and the genuine worry about displacing the existing tenant. It's because you're good people that live in Ogden with real concerns about the ballooning cost of housing for the middle here, teachers, police, firefighters, small business owners, etc. You all sweated over how to find funds to buy some park space. You all want good spaces for our community's kids to play sports. But I agree, 1.8 million is a lot of money. It's something you got to think about. I love the presentation about idle-free month. You know that despite the amazing beauty here, Ogden suffers from pretty bad air days, and we all need to do better for our environment. I agree with the guy that spoke up about the impact you guys can have on the students by leading. I was happy that tonight, that during the motel conversion issue, it was discussed how it's good to mix people from various income levels in a residential area. There's a desire to mix incomes because it's healthier for a community. I agree. So I'm left confused. That concern over a $1.8 million expense for a city park looks very different from how some of you voted to bond for potentially 100 times that 1.8 million. To force a development that was described by someone in the administration as the most expensive apartments in Ogden. Also during that presentation, you were told by the administration that developers are scrambling for property here, lining up for land. But we're not forcing LIHTC, no lead requirements I saw. Car chargers? I hope they're solar. I know you all have a desire to do the right thing for Ogden, so I'm just asking for, make more choices for the kids. Avoid using so much financing that holds money back from our schools and starves infrastructure maintenance. Be fiscally wise. Demand current market research. I just ask that you look over where and how you may have been pushed towards making decisions that might be inconsistent with your real values. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? I don't see anything online. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your input. Any comments from the mayor?
I just appreciate the dialogue and the discussion and everybody that spent the entire night here. Thank you very much for your comments and your passion. That certainly helps us all make better decisions, and I'll leave it at that. We appreciate you being here.
Any council comments?
I want to just thank those that recognize the awesomeness and the greatness of Christy McBride, and I want to thank Christy McBride for making us look good.
And if I could just go on the heels of that, we did get a chance to tour the Union Station the other couple of weeks ago, and I was again amazed. In fact, Christy McBride has moved her office into that building, so she is now intimately involved with it. But I want to thank our council for going out on the limb and purchasing that land. Without the $5.5 million, nothing would be getting done right now. We would still be in this gerbil rat cage going around and around, because without the land, it's very difficult to do anything to update that building. Thanks to the administration too. I think, and I'm going to botch this completely, so I'm sorry, Brandon. But you know, developing the Union Station Advisory Committee, the museum planning group, and then working with the foundation for the philanthropy. I think those are three things that are going to really catapult us into a different chapter from where we've been, much like what the Marshall White Advisory Committee did for the Marshall White Center. The biggest thing, though, I want to say is that I realized one thing when I was there, and that is we have a story to tell. We have a story of Ogden to tell. I realized that we have a bunch of cars sitting in this museum. And the whole time I was sitting there thinking, how great would it be to know what the individuals that owned those cars did, where they went. Did they go to church? Did their children get married and they got to ride in those cars? Did they run to the hospital with the birth of their first child? We don't know those stories, and our Ogden Station campus and the museum that we're looking to create is going to be able to tell those stories. We have a lot of firearms in the Browning Museum. Again, there are so many stories of the prototypes, where those prototypes ended up, which hands they were in. Were there fights on 25th Street in the Al Capone days? There are so many stories that we are going to see in this next chapter of where we're going. And I'm just excited that we took a leap with the $5.5 million to get us there. And I am excited to see what that next chapter is. So thank you to our council and thank you to administration for moving us into that next chapter. So thanks.
Chair, I was going to say what she said.
Okay, ditto. You say ditto.
Yeah, I was literally, those are exactly the talking points that I had. I think it is noteworthy that Christy is moving her office there. And she was, at least with the tour that I got from her, she was a little concerned about putting out the requisition for the supplies and the contractor to do that, lest it raise somebody's fur up again, you know, about that. But I think, you know, from those who love the station, that's a really good thing that you know, Christy is going to be having her office in that building. She'll be seeing it every day. And for what it's worth, I don't think we forced them to do a thing. I think all the stuff was planned. It was a regularly scheduled plan. I don't think there was any conspiracy going on to do anything, and we changed it. I think that it was just according to plan. So the other thing is I did want to make a clarification on my comment about home ownership. The idea that if the trend has been that developers or people with a lot of money that don't live here, they buy up our properties and turn them into rentals, and so we're going, you know, our percentage of rentals is getting higher and higher every year. And if you own a home, you recognize that that was probably one of the best decisions you ever made, was buying your home, because it locked you into the system. But if you're renting, you realize you'll never catch up with your rent. Rent is going to go up every time it has an opportunity to go up, and it sticks you in your place in the economy below where you could be if you could buy a home. Ogden is in that trend of changing from a home owned city to a home rented city, and it isn't healthy for the community to get too unbalanced in that area. There does need to be places for people to rent. I mean, I rented when I started. Most people did, but I'm certainly glad for the day that I finally was able to buy my house. And boy, I look back at that now, I'm thinking, man, it killed me the day I did it. I thought I was never going to pay the payment. But now I look at it and I think, holy cow, that was the best thing I ever did. So, and I wish we could find a way for people to secure more of those kind of situations. And that's why I made the comment that I did. It wasn't so that we could tyrannize our constituency. It was not that at all. And Carolyn, I read the Declaration of Independence every year, front to back. And I keep a copy with me most weeks. I love that document. I've studied it under the Hillsdale College course on the Constitution. I understand the Constitution. I love it as much as you. Trust me. But anyway, those are the things I thought I probably should bring up. I appreciate the administration and the good work that they're doing behind the scenes. They largely don't say anything. The mayor doesn't pipe up and talk too much, but I know he's very busy making sure that the Union Station gets covered, and he's got people like Brandon and people that do those kind of things, do the day-to-day, but it's under the mayor's direction. So I appreciate the mayor and the good work that you do and the heart that you have for the citizens of Ogden. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Given the time, I'll keep them short. I had more things I wanted to say, but I'll just keep it short tonight. Thanks again. Thanks you all also for, I couldn't make it to the group tours, and I got a tour for me, and I really appreciate it. And I agree with all of you about how that was really everything that's happening at the Union Station. I think it's all the administration. So I think they deserve all that credit, and thank you for that. I would like to make a respectful request to find out more about the situation of the restaurant that is at the Union Station. Chair, Vice Chair, if you wouldn't mind, if you can, help us please find out. Administration, Mayor, Mark, if you could please respectfully ask if you could help us, give us some information if there is any chance that could be an incubator kitchen for Ogden. I would really appreciate it. Just these discussions that are happening about open space, green space, playable space, park space, whatever you want to call it. I just would like everybody to remember that there are a lot of people, probably half of the people in our city, that don't have the means to buy bikes, to buy skis, to pay for ski resorts, to go and pay for tickets for expensive flow riders and the stuff, the one that shoots you up, or whatever that's called. I fly. I've never done it because I can't pay $50 an hour to do that. Maybe it's cheaper now. I don't know. So that's why.
A minute, not an hour.
Really? Okay, so I'll never do it then. So that's why this conversation is so important for so many people, because the open space in the parks are for everybody, but primarily they're important for the people that can't afford to do all these other stuff, right? So please pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? I don't know if there's anybody left. There's a couple. Do you have any comments?
I just would like to thank the probably 80 or so people that emailed us over this last week about the parks. I did read every single one of those, tried to respond to, I don't think I got all of them responded to. But I just hope people understand that this is a process, and we're trying to work through it, get questions asked and answered, and try and figure out what's the best thing to do going forward. We do understand there is a large appetite for the parks. There's a lot of passion around that, and those Ogden City School District properties. And so we get a recommendation from administration, and we ask questions about it, and we try and find out what we can. So when's the date? We don't have an official on any of that, but we're still working through those things. So we appreciate the comments, the concerns, the questions. Especially, I can tell some of those emails came from kids, and I love that kids are getting involved and asking us what's going on. And so, yeah, appreciate that. So thank you.
Chair, can I sorry, go ahead.
Please.
I just The Stansfields had questions about timeline, so ways to reach us, you can either go through Steve, because that's been quite effective, or you can just send us emails directly. All of our emails are listed on our website. You can send one email to the council office, and they will send it to all of us. I think we all have our phone numbers listed too.
Yep.
But we have until March 14th to make a decision on that piece of ground over by your place. So.
It's citycouncil@ogdencity.com.
It's right on the agenda if you want to pick that up.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. Yeah, we do want to hear from you. So.
Sorry, Chair, for
Please.
double dipping super fast. I also forgot to say thank you to Mark for fixing or helping us fix the lights, a request that came from Paul. I said in my email that I might have jumped the gun, so thank you very, very much for that. I really, really appreciate it. And then also just hoping that we could get an update on the potential solution on Monroe and between 7th and between 12th and 9th Street, where cars are falling off the street over there. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The only thing I would say, I mean, among all these other comments, is that we have been getting a lot of emails lately, which we certainly appreciate, but sometimes we might miss things or miss messages. So please give us a little grace and just say, hey, I emailed you last week and you haven't written back, or give me a call or text. I'm really good at texting too. So yeah, when we get a bunch at one time, it's just very hard for us to navigate sometimes. So we're not ignoring you, but just let us know. Anything else? Great. Would anybody like to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Nadolski to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't even ask anybody.
Good job.
I'm not even giving
We're good.
Yeah.
Good night.